Welcome to Traveling Adventures, your quest for love. This show is for single people and for those in helpless, failing relationships, thinking about jumping ship and traveling the world to find that special someone. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share this video, and let us go ahead and begin, shall we? Alright, so today's country that we're going to travel to virtually is the country of Morocco. And we're going to be talking about men and women from Morocco in general, wherever they are in the world. So you get an idea if, as far as whether they could make the ideal partner for you or not. So let's go ahead and start off with the good men and women of Morocco and what the characteristics of that looks like. Because that's what we always do on this show. We got to always start off with the good in order to get a good gist as far as what to look for in a Moroccan man or woman. And we'll also go over later what to avoid. But for now, okay, let's go ahead and get into the top 3 things to look for in a Moroccan man or woman, starting off with the women as always. Moroccan women bring a captivating and intense private passion, treating intimacy as a deeply expressive and devoted art form meant for complete mutual fulfillment, where physical connection is an inseparable part of emotional and spiritual bonding. Absolutely. Perfectly said. You know, physical connection is all about mutual fulfillment. Intimacy is just the heart of the relationship. You have to have passion. That love can never die out. And many people say the flame goes out the older you get. That's wrong. That's the wrong answer. It should only get stronger, like a bonfire. All right. So what's another top characteristic to look for in a Moroccan woman? They are modern, by the way. Just want to put that disclaimer out there. They're not all like... A lot of people unfortunately believe that Morocco is stuck with camels and deserts and, you know, this African country. No, it's not. Okay? Many countries in what people call third world countries, many countries are very modern. You'd be surprised. And massively developed. Lots of urban developments everywhere. They masterfully blend a warm, playful social grace with a serious, resilient core, creating a partner who is endlessly fun in joyful moments, yet formidably strong and protective when challenges arise, ensuring life is both vibrant and secure. All right, so I like that. Playful social grace and resilient core, joyful moments. This is what an ideal relationship should be like. So remember, men out there, this is what you want if you encounter a Moroccan woman out there. Hopefully she's on the good side. They carry the ancient strategic wisdom of a culture that prizes family honor, very important, and social intelligence, making them exceptionally skilled negotiators of complex relationships and guardians of the home. This is assuming that, you know, her family is a good family, okay? Because there's lots of toxic families out there, and then they have to declare their independence, start a family of their own, yada yada. So no, family is not everything when it's a toxic family. If it's honor is all about your parents never betray you, never let you down, never abandon you, always support you, always push for your goals and your dreams. Those are the real parents right there. And some of them start off good and end up like hell on earth, while others are good all the time. And then unfortunately the kids, they grow up as adults and they take that for granted, unfortunately. Lots of spoiled brats out there. But yeah, let's go ahead and proceed, offering you a deeply rooted and savvy partnership. Okay, so those are the top 3 qualities of your ideal Moroccan woman. Now, again, I had to interject. We are talking about modern Moroccan women. Okay, we're not talking about the traditional Moroccan women who are very Muslim. Okay, so they're going to be in cities like, we'll go over later the cities, but I have to point out the city of Fes. For example, they're very traditional. I do not recommend, it is just not recommended that you go to the traditional city of Fes or not another major city, but anywhere like a village similar to that, because that is not an ideal place for a foreigner to visit if you're going to Morocco. But if you meet a Moroccan woman from anywhere else in the world, this also applies. Okay, they could be very culturally centered, very traditional, and you're probably not going to vibrate on the same level because you might be more liberal, she might be more culturally traditional, and so that could present a problem. But ideally, yes, there are very modern Moroccan women out there. And as for the men, the same applies. Let's go ahead and shift gears over to the men, the good parts, the top 3 that you should look for in a Moroccan man. Moroccan men approach intimacy with a confident, generous, and all-consuming passion that makes you feel overwhelmingly desired. Well, isn't that nice? Viewing physical connection as both a joyful celebration and a profound duty of attentiveness to their partner. Yeah, well, that sounds really mutual there. They both accentuate that, the physical connection. It's really good. They are thrillingly dynamic, capable of shifting from charming, humorous socializers to fiercely serious protectors in an instant, ensuring life is never boring and you always feel both entertained and defended. That's interesting. Sort of like a bodyguard. But I like that. Humorous socializers. All right. So it sounds like a lot of fun, right? Ideally. They are defined by a powerful traditional code of hospitality and provision, driving them to build a public reputation of impeccable generosity. Wow, that is unique. And private fortress of security for their family, making you feel proudly showcased and fundamentally protected. Well, lots of protection emphasized with the men of Morocco here, but also mentioned on the women's side. So there we go. Isn't that the ideal candidate for somebody who is tired of the spoiled Westerners, so to speak? The spoiled men and women who they don't value what a real relationship should be. They don't care. They just want to mess around, have fun. Well, their definition of fun. Toxic people that'll use you, abuse you, and leave you. So if you're tired of that, consider taking an adventure either to the country of Morocco or getting to know a Moroccan person if you find anyone where you live from Morocco. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and venture off into the dark side. The bad men and women of Morocco, or Moroccan people in general, when it comes to potentially establishing a successful, hopefully, relationship, lifelong relationship for all you serious people out there. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? Let's see. But before we do, of course, I have to give out a quick disclaimer. The following does not apply to all men and women of Morocco. Just in case you're new to the show, it does not apply. All these bad things, which are just 3 of them, the top 3 bad things to watch out for, does not apply to all Moroccan men and women. You have been warned. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed to the bad stuff. Because unfortunately, that's part of reality in any country that we talk about in this series. All right, so starting off with the bad Moroccan women here, the ones you should avoid. Moroccan women can wield intimacy as a weapon of reward and punishment. All right, so that's definitely not good. That could be universal as well. Creating a cycle of intense passion followed by calculated withdrawal to control the relationship dynamics, making your emotional security dependent on her unpredictable terms. All right, so that's definitely not good, right? Because that's a sign of someone who just doesn't love you. If they're going to withhold intimacy from you, it's not forced. It's not, you have to be intimate with me. No. Weaponized means, hey, we're not having any problems. So what's going on? Like, what do you really feel from me? You know, because there's no excuses. You know, you don't have a headache. You're not in a bad mood. You're physically healthy. You should be mentally and emotionally healthy. You're well taken care of. Everything's going great. If there's no love, you have to beg the question, what's really going on? Where's the communication? Weaponizing intimacy is proof that this person has some type of resentment for you. And that's not healthy. I don't care what anybody says. That is not a healthy relationship. intimacy, especially physical intimacy, is a must. When, okay, fine, nobody's forcing anybody, but when physical intimacy is lacking, there's a severe problem going on. Unless there's a genuine, just honest excuse, which everybody would understand. You know, you're not feeling good, or you're just not in the mood. That's respectable, of course. I'm talking about purposefully saying, yeah, no, I'm just going to manipulate you by giving it to you, not giving it to you, avoiding intimacy. That's just a big red flag, okay? You know, like I said, nobody's forcing anybody here, but people just don't get it these days. It's a big red flag. They're talking about sexless relationships or sex once a year, a few times a year. That's horrible. That's horrendous. That's not love, people. And so many gullible people these days believe, oh no, we're still in love. No, you're not. Newsflash. Where's the physical love, for crying out loud? It's pathetic, you know? All right, so let's go ahead and proceed here with the second top bad quality for the women of Morocco. She may harbor a deep, simmering skepticism from a culture of limited trust, leading to intense dramatic jealousy and constant testing of your loyalty over innocent interactions, transforming love into an exhausting audit of your every move. Well, isn't that horrible? That's horrendous, isn't it? Jealousy and an audit of your every move. You see, you just pay attention there. Transforming love into something that no man should ever desire to be in. That's a situationship, as they call it. All right, so last one for the Moroccan women. She may often remain legally and emotionally bound to her birth family's authority, which can lead to parents or brothers overriding your marital decisions. Wow, that's not good, is it? Controlling finances and making you an outsider in a pre-existing alliance you can never fully join. All right, so you got to make sure, like I said before as a disclaimer, not the disclaimer about bad Moroccan men and women, but before about the culture. Yes, they are modern, but there's also hybrids. They might be modern Moroccan people, but they could have one foot in the door of heavily traditional cultural background. So you got to be aware of that. You know, their families, they take it very seriously. It doesn't mean it's impossible to avoid, but, you know, it depends on modern and liberal they really are. All right, shifting gears back to the men of Morocco, the bad side, the dark side. Moroccan men can possess a rigid traditional view of gender roles in private. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Expecting servitude and obedience behind closed doors, while publicly showcasing a modern relationship, creating a jarring duality where you are a trophy in the street and a servant at home. Okay, so that's what I call machismo, right? That's a toxic masculinity, the equivalent. There is such a thing. And the toxic men will say, no, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Yes, there is. This type of controlling behavior is absolutely unacceptable. It's not a loving relationship here. Gender roles are supposed to be equally amicable, full of love and care. All right? So being loving and caring is not feminine. It's also masculine. And many ignorant people these days just don't understand that fact. Love is love. Okay? All right. So the second trait here, he may have been raised in a culture of pervasive male entitlement. All right, so there's another form of corruption here, which can manifest as blatant, unapologetic infidelity. All right, so here we go into the world of cheating. Justified as a natural right. Wow, that's pretty shameless. Leaving you to choose between accepting public humiliation or destroying your family's social standing. Right, so it looks like he doesn't care. He's just going to do what he wants, right? We've seen this before, but yeah, it could be universal, obviously. But this is extra bad boy material here, not bad boy in a good way. This is a very toxic person that you want to avoid. Nobody's entitled to such things. It is not a right. It's just proof that this guy doesn't love you at all. He just wants to use you and abuse you. All right, so the last part. He may be driven by an obsessive focus on social appearance and religious reputation, pressuring you to conform to strict, performative standards of modesty and piety, while they may not follow the same rules, making your life a curated display for community judgment. Well, how about that? Beware for those of you who are not religious, such as myself, atheists. Okay, I do believe that something created everybody, but I'm not here to talk about religion. I'm here to warn you that if your religions don't click, if they don't coincide, they don't work well together, then you're going to have major issues. Okay, so the Muslim community, Islam is a very powerful religion. I'm sure everybody knows. So just tread carefully. When, the religious topic comes about, you got to make sure that you guys are compatible, that it's going to work, because incompatibilities destroy a relationship, and religion is included. You have lots of people who, they're overly religious in a good way. Okay, respect. But then in a bad way, a toxic way. And that's not deserving of respect. That's disrespectful at that point. It defeats the whole entire purpose of religion itself. You don't force somebody else to believe what you believe. You don't manhandle your woman in this case, or manhandle or woman handle your man, because that also happens in all kinds of deeply religious cultures out there. So you gotta tread carefully. Like, okay, they might be modern, great, but they also might be heavily religious or heavily traditional. That has a lot to do with religion, but it's more family oriented, or both. A double nightmare scenario. All right, so that concludes all the bad parts, potentially, with a bad Moroccan person, if you're considering getting to know one better, intimately, that is, hopefully, maybe lifelong. But there's one final farewell that I have to dish out here, as far as extra information regarding Morocco. If you're planning to visit the country of Morocco, which I have, actually, I spent a good week there visiting all the major cities, family and social reputation remain powerful forces. A modern Moroccan woman, for example, may drink, date, and have a career, but choosing a foreign partner for marriage will still trigger a major family negotiation. All right. A modern Moroccan man, in contrast, may seem entirely westernized, but pressure to fulfill traditional roles as a son can resurface dramatically. All right. Similar issue, right? With the family, the culture, the traditions. These challenges can be discussed openly and navigated as a team rather than being imposed as unspoken rigid law. All right, so that's a little bit of good news. If you're dealing with a more modern Moroccan family origin there, of the person that you're interested in, okay, sounds like they're flexible. That's not really common in the Muslim world. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the cities of Morocco. All right, so there's 4 major cities in Morocco. There's Casablanca, Rabat, Tangier, Marrakesh. All right, so these are the places in order of you'll most likely find a more modern Moroccan person there. The economic capital of Casablanca. It's where career-driven modern Moroccans live and work, meet people in upscale cafes, co-working spaces, art galleries, and cultural centers. All right, just a little bit of FYI for your information. Rabat is another city, the administrative and political capital. The scene here is intellectual, politically engaged, and slightly more discreet than in Casablanca. Look in the Agdal and High Riyadh neighborhoods. All right, so just a little bit of tips, right? These are heavily populated cities, by the way, so excitement, you shouldn't be bored, is what I'm trying to say. So lots of great scenery, lots of blend of foreigners and Moroccans, obviously. Tangier, historically international, the modern crowd here is often involved in the arts, writing, and culture. The liberal scene is woven into the city's historic identity. Right, so right up there in the Mediterranean, the entrance there. So if you guys like the beach lifestyle, I mean, there's beaches across the Moroccan coast, obviously. But yeah, Tangier is one of the beginning cities that you might want to get to know if you just want a little taste of Morocco, if you're considering visiting there. And the last city here, Marrakesh, a blend of both the traditional and the modern, in my humble opinion. In the tourist-heavy Medina, you will meet a huge number of modern, internationally facing Moroccans, but their primary connection to foreigners is often through the tourist and service economy. All right, so the line between genuine connection and professional hospitality is famously blurred, and, well, in Marrakesh primarily, but you could say that about all these places because they have a lot of modern updates to them. They're not just fully traditional like the city of Fes. Tread with more awareness here. Okay, so that's kind of sort of true because Marrakesh is not as modern as Rabat and Casablanca, but this pretty much covers the gist of Morocco. Now, we're talking relationships here, potential relationships, but like I said before, if you're not interested in visiting the country of Morocco to find that special exotic someone, that modern special exotic someone, by the way, then, yes, get to know a Moroccan person from another country, or maybe where you live in particular. Be open to it. You never know. You never know who your lifelong partner could be. And, I encourage you to study all types of countries out there in this world. It's a humongous world out there. It's not just the one country you live in. Newsflash, because a lot of people, unfortunately, they believe that. They're like, well, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not visiting anywhere. I'm great where I am. Okay, but if it's not working for you, newsflash, what are you going to do? What are your options? You're limiting yourself to the same place that you know is not working out for you. At the very least, go to another city, right? But my job, but. Well, then looks like you're going to be stagnant for the rest of your life. And then you're going to try to live in denial saying you're happy when you know you're not. All because you didn't want to open your mind and take a simple vacation to an exotic country out there. It's completely safe. And get to know a different culture perhaps. Or get to know somebody in your neck of the woods that is from a different country other than the one that you're currently residing in. Got to open your mind, people. Otherwise, you're limiting yourself. You won't be happy. So the final verdict that I have for Morocco, what can I say? There's a heavy traditional side, full of culture, and then there's a modern side. Now, 1 week in Morocco, even though I've been to all the major cities, it's clearly not enough time to really get to know the modern side, which I was eager to do. But mainly I got to know the traditional side. So definitely I would say if you're a modern person and you're not Muslim yourself, with, religiously speaking, I would say if you're a modern person, just avoid the traditional altogether and just go for the modern. But keep in mind, as I said before, it's going to be a blend most of the time. I would assume. I could be wrong, but there's so much tradition in Morocco, so much culture, that I wouldn't say, hey, this is a country to visit if you want something similar to the traditional Western countries, quote unquote, the most liberal countries that such as Europe and the US in particular. They really do stick to their traditional style, their lifestyle there. But yes, it's always a possibility. And like I said before, if you meet somebody from Morocco where you live or close to where you live, then just keep an open mind, because there's a reason they moved out of the country. Maybe it was a good reason, maybe it was a bad reason. Who knows? But just be aware of those bad characteristics, because they do exist. Even if they're in a different country, they still have connections back home because family is strong. Not in all cases, but you've been warned. Just make sure you can check that box off with a clear mind. Rest assured. Okay, so communication. With that said, that concludes this episode on Morocco. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Also, be sure to sign up on my website for your free membership with all types of free goodies. Best of luck on your quest for love. Much love, everybody.